Hey guys, poster wall's been updated. We've got Elysium, Star Trek Into Darkness, and today's reviewed film, Epic. Now, I was looking forward to this movie. I don't know why. It's a cartoon, it's a ripoff of Fern Gully, and it has Amanda Seyfried in it. This movie just spelled doom, and I wanted to see it. So, I wasn't really expecting that much from the movie. I just don't know why, but I really wanted to see it, so I saw it, and it wasn't that epic. Well, actually, it was epic in one sense, and that was visually looked good. The animation was great. The 3D was great. 3D has actually been making a little bit of comeback because Star Trek looked great in 3D, and now this looked great in 3D. So, and they did a lot of really cool camera shots. It was like camera was like zooming through, and it kind of felt like you were flying. That actually looked pretty cool. But so you can tell a lot of effort was really put into the story of, I flipped that around. A lot of effort was put into visuals, but not a lot of effort was put into the story. There. So, problem with this movie is that the story, putting aside the fact that's not very original, that it's ripping off Avatar or Fern Gully or whatever you want to say, putting that aside, it felt very domesticated is the word. It wasn't very epic. It was just like, oh, okay, it's just the story's happening, and there's the characters, and they gotta do this, and they gotta do that. It's like, It wasn't. The one strength the movie had was, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Amanda Seyfried's character was the heart of the movie. Yeah, the apocalypse is coming. I praise Amanda Seyfried's acting in a movie. I think the deal is because I didn't see her face, and she wasn't that was that annoying. Anyway, so her character MK. I really liked her. She was really interesting. She really she carried the movie. She had a lot of heart. She had a lot of good jokes. I just liked her character, and she carried the movie. She was the one I thought was the most interesting part about the movie. Everyone else, well, the acting was okay. Colin Farrell was great. I love Colin Farrell. I'll watch him read the phone book. Josh Hutcherson I like Josh Hutcherson. Not that way, but he's a little forgettable in this movie. Like, they didn't put a lot of effort into him. They tried to have a romance between him and MK, and it's just, his character wasn't given a lot of weight, so it didn't make all that much sense. Christoph Waltz, he was fun. I think he had a pretty good time playing the villain, a villain in a kid's movie anyway. When he's playing Hans Landa, watch out. But, it's just there's a lot of stuff in this movie that they don't flesh out very well. Like the relationship between MK and her dad in the movie. That could have been really, really interesting. That could have been really like the heart of the soul of the movie. But they just kind of say, oh yeah, they imply all this happened between them, but they don't really go into all that stuff with it. And there's a lot of scenes like that. Most specifically, the backstories of most of the characters. Like, there's a lot of backstory in this movie, but they don't really get into it. Like, they imply there's a history between these two characters, and imply that something happened to this character, and imply this, and imply that, but they don't do anything with it. Now, I'm not saying I want a 5-hour director's cut that has, like, all the backstory in there, but it would have made a better movie. Like, if the director's cut ever comes out, I would gladly pay money to see that. But, it's just, there's a lot of stuff that kind of fell by the wayside. A lot of stuff that really could have been interesting, could have been fascinating, and they just didn't go that far with. And the biggest problem is, normally, I think a lot of movie critics will agree with me on this. Sometimes when you'll see a movie, as you're watching the movie, you'll say, well, I think this is going to happen, or I think they're going to do this. I think they're setting up this for it to happen later. And then when it never does, you're just like, oh well. I can't control that. It's not my fault. Normally, I would say that. But in Epic, it was just so blatantly a problem with the movie that they didn't do this one thing. I'm going to get into somewhat minor spoilers. If you really, really care about the movie, I doubt it, though. Don't watch here, because I'm going to kind of discuss the ending of the movie. So, alright. I'm assuming that everyone's left who cares that much about the movie, doesn't want spoiled for them. So the plot of the movie is the queen dies, Beyonce Knowles' character dies, and they need an heir. And there's a little pod that'll bloom into the air, however that works. And so the whole movie, I'm saying this, MK's the heir. That's my theory. And they hint at this like a million times in the movie. Like when MK gets shrunk down, the pod, like a Levine comes out and attaches itself to her arm. I'm like, okay, this is foreshadowing. And they keep saying all this stuff. They really put a lot of weight on this. They're like, who is the heir? What's the heir gonna be? Like, there's this whole thing that MK has to be there when the pod blooms, the heir, and the heir is chosen. And I'm like, okay, I'm convinced that's how the movie's gonna go. Well, it turns out it's the flower girl who was in the background instead. That sucks. Okay, here's the big problem with this. They try to make the flower girl, who eventually becomes the heir, a part of the movie, but they don't do it very fluidly. Like, there's like, it's like stuff like, it's like, it goes like this. We interrupt this program for your programming for this important announcement. Hi guys, we're the writers of Epic. We just want to stop the movie right here for this tiny pointless scene that serves only to plant this little seed for the ending of the movie. Just thought I like to let you know. We're now returning to regular scheduled programming. Ta-ta. That's what it felt like. It felt like they had just stopped the movie cold and just to introduce this minor character that is going to pay off in the end. Like, when that scene came up in the theater, but I guess prior, like, it's really early on in the movie, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's the point of this? And then, of course, when we find out the Fallout Tribe was the heir at the end of the movie, I was like, oh, pfft. So, here's the problem with this. If MK was the heir, if I had my way with this movie, it would not only be a good resolution, and it would not only be good storytelling, like, instead of putting so much weight on a minor character who, like, barely does anything until the end of the movie, making him one of the main characters, the fulcrum of the movie. Because they all this thing, they say, okay, the queen shrunk you down for a reason. And I'm like, okay. They put so, like, if you if you didn't see the end of the movie and just saw the rest of it, you'd be like, wow, I am so convinced that the movie is basically, like, screaming at you that MK is going to be the heir to the throne. And I'm like, oh my. And when they didn't do it, the problem with that is just that, like, imagine the possibilities if they had done that. The dramatic possibilities. Like, the whole thing between her and her father. That could have been really, really interesting if MK was the heir at the end. Like, she'd have to, like, break it to her father. Like, hey, I'm gonna stay here. And in the actual movie, after it gets resolved, she goes back to her normal size, and she goes back to the father, and she's like, it's just, like, one scene, then that's it. And it's just... Like I said, normally I don't get mad at movies for they didn't do this, they didn't do what I thought they were going to do, but this is just such a big thing that it would have made such a better movie. Like, that's why I really want a director's cut. I'm sure someone had to have asked this question at least some point. Like, hey, should we do this with the character? Like, well, I don't know what was going on in the film, like I said. But this just really drove me nuts. And it really made what could have been something really interesting just mediocre. So, final score for Epic is a 5 out of 10. It'll hold your family's attention, hold kids' attentions. But it's just, if you're really hardcore into, like me, if you just love movies and you're just a great storyteller, it's got a lot of flaws and it's not very epic. So... that was just my big problem with the movie, was just that they didn't do what I thought they were going to do, and it would have made a really satisfying movie had they done that. So that's all I got. Friends 27 out.